Thank you very much. Good morning, great instructional leaders. How are you? Good. Good. I'm glad to be back. The last time we were together was in December, and you remember at that time, what was it that you were charged to do before you went home for winter break? Does anybody remember? That's okay, I'll remind you. So the last time we were together, I said, you have 7 more days to make the difference, a huge difference in the lives of your students. And at that time, throughout the presentation on the back of your folder, you were able to record different leadership actions that you were going to do. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time right now just to kind of think back to December. And you actually ended up having more than 7 days because our January EILN meeting was canceled due to snow. So you had a whole month and 7 days and now 14 days in the month of February. So go ahead and think about the different leadership actions you wrote down and ask yourself individually, what did I do? What did I not do? What happened that I couldn't do it? And then just kind of start thinking about that for a little bit. So go ahead and take a minute to do that now. All right, it sounds like there's been a lot of great thinking because you've also began to have discussions with other people at your table. Maybe they're at your building, maybe they're not at your building. But a couple little reminders. You are all instructional leaders. You are there for a purpose. You have a huge why behind why you exist within our district, because we count on you to support teachers every day and build their capacity so they can build our students' capacity and raise achievement. That's a huge why. In order for that to happen, the two most important things have to happen. One, you have to have a plan, and you have to do something. You have to do something. So if you don't have a plan, can you do anything? No. So you kind of know where you are yourself as an individual leader, but you also know where your building is. And so think about that. Do we have a plan? And do we act on it? And after we act on it, do we come back to it and assess it? How well did it go? What went well? What didn't work? What didn't go well? And what is it that we need to do next? Okay? So as we move forward today, we're going to have an opportunity to focus in on learning goals as well. And you should be able to walk away with some additional tools to add to your toolbox to implement learning goals even more deeply into your buildings. So first, I want you to open up your folder. I'm going to help you locate a few materials because it looks like you have a very large folder with lots of colors. I don't know if there's enough colors in the world to help navigate through this. So we're going to have you pull a few things out. The first one is the learning goals presentation. It's on white paper. Go ahead and pull that out so you can follow along. You also have a purple differentiated professional learning form that looks like this that you can pull out. You have a white self-assessment of learning goal implementation that you should pull out. You have a copy of the PowerPoint slide called Elevator Speech that you should pull out. There is a buff colored PowerPoint that looks like this. This was the original Clear Learning Goals presentation that was delivered in December of 2016 that you can pull out. Then you also have a green PowerPoint that looks like this, and it was delivered in December of 2017, the last time we were together. And then the last piece is a pink piece of paper that has current learning goals being used in our building. So you can pull this piece of paper out. So hopefully that will help you know which materials we will use. And I tried to be purposeful as I pulled each one out, that the first one I shared with you would be the first one we'll use. The second one I shared with you would be the second one we would use, and so forth. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we have a couple different sets of learning goals. And the first one we're actually calling our long-term outcomes. Because when you go to implement something, when you implement a plan, it's not a one-stop shop. It takes time. And the reason it takes time is because your teachers and staff are learning something new. They're having to get rid of the old, some of the old habits, maybe some of the beliefs, and they're also learning. So they're on learning, relearning, and then learning a lot more, okay? So it's a process. So that's why that plan is so important, because that plan is outlining steps, little steps along the way to help transform your teacher's practice in the classroom. So our two long-term outcomes that you have seen and should be familiar with this year is the first one is on guaranteed and viable curriculum. This is where it starts. In the little video that you just saw around the INSCAS, it had the table of specifications. The table of specifications has the standards. That's where the curriculum is driven from. From those table of specifications, that's how we choose our core resources, Go Math. The two things we look at, are they aligned and are they high quality? Okay? So guaranteed and viable curriculum, and the most effective way to ensure the guaranteed and viable curriculum happens in the classroom, delivered by the teacher, is through the learning goal. So we want to ensure that our teachers can implement the guaranteed and viable curriculum through the effective use of learning goals. The next goal, I can build capacity to improve proficiency level of all teachers in utilizing learning goals to deliver a guaranteed and viable curriculum. That is your biggest learning goal. It's why you exist. This is one of your big whys. Why we have your position and why we need you in our buildings every day. So if you need to underline build capacity, that's your job, is to build capacity in your teachers to help them. Building capacity is not telling. It's helping them, asking good questions, giving them a lot of different opportunities and experiences to learn on their own. Today's learning goals. These are the different activities you will be engaged in. The first one is you're going to create an elevator speech. So I will be able to create an elevator speech in order to effectively and efficiently communicate the purpose of learning goals to my staff. You need to be able to talk the talk, walk the talk, and believe in the talk. So you're going to have an opportunity to be able to effectively communicate the why behind the learning goals to multiple audiences. The second learning goal today is you will plan a coaching conversation to provide descriptive feedback about learning goals. And then the third learning goal is I will plan next steps for increasing fidelity in the use of learning goals. So we're going to do a little self-reflection right now. In your materials, go ahead and pull out the white self-assessment and the purple differentiated professional learning pieces of paper. Think about what you thought about when we first started. You also have a couple different documents here, and both of these should be familiar to you. We used them in December. So you can take the self-assessment, you can read the self-assessment. The big piece here is to think and reflect. These are the different things that hopefully have happened in your building, or at least some of them have happened in your building, and it will also give you ideas for what you can do next. And then the differentiated professional learning, that was the piece when we were assessing where's your building at, and where do you need to go next. So go ahead and take a couple minutes, look over those documents and reflect. And then of course on the back of your yellow folder, you can write some of the leadership actions that you believe your building needs to take in order to get closer to our long-term outcome of having every teacher implement a guaranteed and viable curriculum through a clear learning goal? All right, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to think, have some dialogue, and also put a leadership action on the back of your folder. If you have it, go ahead and finish that little task, and we'll go ahead and move on. So quick little synopsis of our learning goals. There's going to be 3 different opportunities for you to learn with your peers today. The first one is the elevator speech. The second one is planning a coaching feedback or conversation with a teacher. And we've actually provided some real district learning goal samples for you to take a look at. And then the last one is to discuss and plan specific steps to move staff towards the institutionalization of learning goals, which is level 4 in the pink sheet of differentiated professional learning. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is an elevator speech. So go ahead and pull out the slide that you have in your pile around the elevator speech. You need to be able to clearly articulate the why with some specifics. And so you have a list of different qualities that should be taken into consideration as you develop your elevator speech. Okay, you can read through that yourself. Obviously, it needs to be clear and concise. You need to be credible, compelling. You need to be consistent with it, and also conversational. Going back to what Donna mentioned around Dr. Knight's work with us around better conversations, is that conversational piece is key. It's going to help build the relationship. Conversations allow the teacher to have a voice. It allows the conversation to be life-giving for both people. And that helps our teachers actually engage in their own learning, which helps you build their capacity. Okay? So if we're thinking about an elevator speech for learning goals, some of the things that come to my mind, if I were to just quickly develop an elevator speech in my mind right now, is the first thing I'm thinking about is how does this connect to everything we do? So if you think back to the presentation in December, we talked about the difference of a high yield instructional strategy and a high probability strategy. And at the time, we asked you to write those down, and I had you cross out high yield instructional strategy, and I had you star high probability strategy. And the reason I asked you to do that was because there's no such thing as a high yield instructional strategy. There's only high probability strategy. And the reason is because it depends on how effective the teacher is in utilizing the strategy. Because they can utilize the strategy of learning goals, but do it poorly, and it has no impact on student learning. But if they utilize it effectively with other high probability strategies, they're going to have huge gains in student achievement. So my elevator speech is going to, right now I'll do it off the cuff here. I'm just going to try to connect all the different pieces. So I probably am going to start, where does the learning goal start from? Who remembers? Where do we get our learning goals from? Our standards, which we call what here? Our guaranteed and viable curriculum. Okay? They're also in our pacing guides. So I might start my elevator speech with something like this. A clear learning goal is the first step in ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum is living and breathing in every classroom. The second step of a clear learning goal is to be the vehicle to drive deliberate planning that ensures the guaranteed and viable curriculum comes alive through the gradual release of instruction with a variety of high probability strategies naturally embedded through modeled, shared, guided, and independent practice, which has multiple checks for understanding throughout all 4 stages of the gradual release that allows the teacher to provide descriptive feedback, reinforcement, and also reteaching for all students or individual students throughout the lesson, which means those individual chunks, and also takes into consideration the activities and the products students are going to engage in and create so that the teacher can accurately determine if the student has mastered the clear learning goal. So the clear learning goal is the means by which we determine and drive all things that happen in the classroom through the lesson. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to take some time by yourself and write your own elevator speech. You have some materials, that's why you have these two past presentations, because you can look through them. You can think about, what is a clear learning goal? What are the parts of a clear learning goal? How does it connect? I chose the elevator speech that I chose because you are all instructional leaders. You get all of the terms I used. If I delivered my elevator speech to your teachers, they may not get it because I don't know where they are. And so think about your audience. You may need to narrow or focus your elevator speech based on where your building is. And then as your teachers learn and build capacity, you can add on to the elevator speech. So we're going to give you some time now by yourself to develop an elevator speech. And then of course, you're going to get an opportunity to share your elevator speech with a partner. All right. So now I want you to find a partner at your table. Find somebody close, somebody you feel comfortable with. It's best if there's only two of you, but if it doesn't work for two, that's fine. Go ahead and do it with 3 different people. Real quickly decide who's going to be A, who's going to be B, and who's going to be C. And I'll give you 5 seconds to decide that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you are in A, raise your hand. If you are a B, raise your hand. If you are a C, raise your hand. If you don't have a letter, raise your hand. Oh, Mr. Tim, I will be your partner. Or if somebody wants to make him their C, he can be a C. You were joking. All right. I know Mr. Tim, and he's a great guy, and he is funny. All right. So, A, you're going to share your elevator speech with B and C first. Then B is going to share. Then C is going to share. And then a courageous person is going to be willing to share with everybody. So you may begin. All right, did everybody get an opportunity to share their elevator speech? Is there anybody who still needs time? Okay, awesome. All right, is there anybody that's really courageous that would be willing to share their excellent elevator speech?
Meg.
Meg, thank you, Meg.
Good job, Meg.
Okay, I'm really thinking of my audience, my staff, where a lot of our teachers do a super job of getting on board with learning goals, and a lot of them have them posted in a student-friendly language. We do have some people who are still a little bit hesitant, so this was geared toward some of our maybe a little bit less willing. And so it just says, when we use learning goals effectively, we help students know where they are going and how we're going to get them there. Starting with our curriculum guides to guide our instruction, we develop and post learning goals in student-friendly terms, starting with I can. Referring to learning goal during the lesson increases student achievement by 27%.
Very nice. Ooh, that was good. All right, anybody else? Mr. Tim? Okay, do you want to go or we'll wait for you? You'll share, okay.
Okay, so I wrote just simple. Learning goals focus learning. They tell us the reason we are doing what we're doing. Kids and their teachers should know how the lesson is increasing their knowledge and/or skills, and why it's important. If we don't know how a lesson is causing growth, what reason do we have for having kids in the classroom?
Excellent. Very nice. Okay, I know there was a hand that was starting to come up over here. Okay, right over here.
Ooh, wait a minute. Okay. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Woo.
All right. A learning goal is the GPS for the teacher, the students, and the staff in the classroom. A learning goal is based on guaranteed viable curriculum standards. They are student-friendly. Learning goals are referred to often throughout the lesson. And at the end of learning goals allow the students and the teachers to determine their proficiency, students' proficiency or depth of learning within the goal.
Excellent. All right, let's give all three of them a round of applause. Thank you. Excellent work, and I liked how each one was different because you were really thinking about where your staff is or some specific teachers within your building. So you could personalize it to them, which is providing a differentiated professional development for them to help build their capacity and move them along. All right, we're going to move on to our second learning with our peers, and that is focusing on coaching practice. So you have a pink sheet of paper. It says current learning goals being used in our buildings. So these are real life OPS learning goals. And these were, we went out and got these. It's actually been, I think, since November because we used them with principals in December. And so if you're thinking, I know you don't have a pacing guide or the curriculum guide with you, but if you think about some of the past teaching that you've seen in your classrooms, you may have already seen some of these things happen, okay? And so that will kind of help you gauge kind of where your teachers are pacing-wise. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about, one, what a learning goal is. Again, you have the different PowerPoints at your fingertips to take a look at those again. There is a slide on page 3 of the green PowerPoint called Characteristics of Learning Goals, and it talks about what they are not. And so it will kind of remind you how to take a look at a learning goal. Is it in student-friendly terms, meaning does it start with I can? Does it have a verb? That verb is what determines the level of difficulty and rigor. Does it have a skill within the learning goal and so forth? So go ahead and take a look at these learning goals. You may find that there are some learning goals listed here. You may find that there are not some learning goals listed here. And if they're not, then why not? And if it is a learning goal, how effective is it? And so after you pick or take a look at each of these learning goals, choose one that you would feel comfortable having a coaching conversation with this teacher. And you can also see that there's different grade levels there as well. So we'll give you about 4 minutes to do this. All right, give me 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, how many of you, when you just looked through all the different learning goals, found a learning goal? Did anybody find a learning goal? Yes, okay. Did anybody find one that was not a learning goal? Yes. So these are real classrooms, real life, and whether they're from the Omaha Public Schools or a different district, we probably would have found similar things. So I think it's important to remember that. But do you also, as you went through these and you crafted your coaching conversation, did you connect with or realize how important you are in your role in developing the capacity of your building and teachers and learning goals? Was it kind of evident as to why you exist? Because they need a thought partner. You're a thought partner. You're a coach, you're an instructional facilitator, whatever role you have, but you're a thought partner. When you planned your coaching conversation, did you think about making sure that the coaching conversation was actually a conversation? Letting them think, letting them have a voice. Hopefully they can do majority of the talking as well, which is a reason why we're doing better conversations this year. It's kind of a transition year as well for coaching, but we have a coaching model that's research-based as far as you identify instructional strategies, you name it, you put the research to it, maybe ask a question, but it really wasn't a coaching conversation. So this year we're spending time learning to have conversations. What's the best practice around conversations to make it life-giving, to put the cognitive load on the teacher, and then next year we'll be able to come back and expand a variety of coaching opportunities for you to use in your building based off of your building needs and your individual teachers. Any thoughts around the learning goals you looked at and developed a coaching conversation? Any thoughts around that? No? All right. So then the last thing is on the back of your folder, you have an opportunity to reflect and plan specific steps, which are your leadership actions that you're going to take when you go back to your building. And the next time I see you or I go into your building, I'm hoping we can have a conversation around how you planned and how you implemented, took action on these leadership steps, because you're making a difference every day for our teachers and our students. So go ahead and finish those final thoughts as Donna and I transition.